Thank you so much for joining me in another video. So I'm doing something a little bit different today and something I've wanted to do for quite some time. And I've wanted to do deep dives or like style analysis of people who I just think have a really strong, defined sense of personal style. So I just want to like look at specific people, take like 3 bags or 3 looks and why it works, what we can learn. I want to do like a series where I talk about people's style from like, I really love Emmanuel Alt, someone I've talked about before on my channel, to even someone like Christine Lagarde, to Iman, to like the Olsen, like, you know what I mean? There's so many people that I think just have like a really strong sense of personal style, and I'd love to just look at their style and like how they wear their handbags and why it works. The person I want to talk about today, and I kind of wanted to pick someone that I think is someone whose style I just really admire. Maybe it's someone that you might be aware of, you may not be aware of, but she was definitely someone before my time, like my awareness of fashion. But in 2022, she is still so relevant. People are still making bags that she was the one to popularize. So we'll get into that and we'll talk about, you know, which bag that is. The person I want to talk about today is Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy, and she is probably like the closest thing to an American princess there is, because obviously it's America, like they don't have princesses, but she became a Kennedy. And just like real quick on her life, she was not someone that was particularly upper class. She was very middle class. She started working as a sales associate at Calvin Klein. Now guys, do you remember Calvin Klein in like the 90s? These ads are a part of like fashion history, these like very like sexy, provocative. This is something you will see in her style, like that it's kind of like this effortless sexiness. But anyway, she started as a sales associate at Calvin Klein and then like worked her way up to becoming a publicist, to representing some of their most important or elite clientele, and that allowed her to meet a lot of famous people, including John F. Kennedy Jr. At the time, he was like the most desired bachelor. Obviously, they got married. Some of her most iconic looks are actually, you know, just like paparazzi photos with her and John F. Kennedy. It's just amazing to see them like on the streets of New York and like Tribeca or wherever. You know, they're walking around with like newspapers, or he's like in his work attire and then she's just so like casually dressed. That's kind of how she became in the public eye. But she was also obviously known for her fashion. It wasn't because she became a Kennedy she became fashionable. She was fashionable very early on, and it was actually her style that got her recognized by a lot of really important people at Calvin Klein. Her really unique, effortless, I want to say minimalist, but like it's just like a very like clean aesthetic. One of her most like iconic looks is she went to like a black tie event, and what she wore was like a white shirt, like a white collared shirt, like a men's shirt, and tucked it into a Yohji Yamamoto black skirt. So groundbreaking, but so simple. It's just clean, simple, comfortable, effortless, but also kind of sexy. Now that we kind of know a little bit about her, let's talk about her style. So there's this one picture of her, and here she is with a very special bag. And this is a bag that was brought back actually this year by Prada, and it's the Prada re-edition 1995 bag. To me, this is the embodiment of her style. 90s minimalism, form follows function, simplicity, elegance, but modern, like modern luxury, not like Jackie Kennedy, right? Like her mother-in-law. Like this is totally different. Like this was not your mother-in-law's sense of elegance. This is modern elegance, but it's very simple, clean, very Carolyn. But it's also very everyday and functional, and that's kind of a key thing. Like there's sort of this everyday like wearability, like almost like universality about her fashion. Like it's not meant to be like elitist in a way. Maybe it's because she was at Calvin Klein, and Calvin Klein was like about like jeans and like everyday wear, but there's just something like so everyday and universal about her style. This photo right here is pretty much an embodiment of that clean, minimal, form follows function aesthetic, right? Like she's got this coat, but she has kind of like this dress underneath. You see a little bit of cleavage, but nothing too much. And then you have JFK Jr. in his ball cap, suit, and then bike. Like there's just something so youthful and forward, but like still luxurious about this look. I don't know, guys, like what do you guys think of this look? I just think it is so carefree, and it's something you can wear today, right? Like you could wear like a low cut gray dress and then like kind of a bigger, boxier dress, sunglasses, like these oval sunglasses, like these sort of like horizontal oval sunglasses. And then she's got her headband to get her hair out of her face. Like everything is functional and has a purpose. Like nothing is ornate, there's nothing extra. It's form follows function. Again, here she is with this bag. Look at how traditional John F. Kennedy looks in this suit. And then here she is in this like beige skirt, like black long sleeve shirt, very form-fitting. Like everything she wore was very form-fitting, like flattered her. It's just so straightforward. That's why I love it. Okay, so the next bag I want to talk about is the Hermès Birkin. Now I think this is an interesting bag to talk about because I think whenever we think about the Birkin, it's something that is supposed to kind of imply status. I almost feel like her wearing this bag, does it give her status or does it like confirm her status? Especially at this time, right? Like in the 1990s, Birkin was maybe in like certain circles known, but really not the way it's known today. Like this was before that episode of Sex and the City, before, you know, so many celebrities, the influencers like have really hyped up this bag. This is really something that I think confirmed her status, but it's also very much her style. I could not picture her wearing a Chanel bag. Like, could you picture her wearing a Chanel bag with this very like clean minimalist 90s minimalist aesthetic? It just doesn't make sense. But like the Birkin, yes, like there's like more of a minimal look to the Birkin, but it's also like a bigger style. Like it looks like it's like a 35, and for like the working woman, like a Birkin 35 is gonna fit whatever you need. Like maybe she had like magazines or, you know, stuff that she needed for the office. It kind of also makes sense. Like if you think about, you know, this era, like especially more like the late 90s when like Margiela was the creative director, Martin Margiela, you definitely see like parallels with her style and what was going on at Hermès. While Margiela was like a very experimental designer, he was also somebody that when he was at Hermès, he still was interested in playing with like shape and silhouette in a toned down way. Like it wasn't like the tabby boots, it was very sophisticated. It was like sophisticated deconstructive fashion, if that makes sense. And the last bag I wanted to look at, guys, it's really hard to find a lot of pictures with her with bags because she really doesn't. She was really very much when we think about the term like luxury minimalist, whether it's like the aesthetic of minimalism in like a luxurious way or like having a less is more kind of approach, buying less, choosing well, making it last. Like she was very much like a luxury minimalist in aesthetic and in like philosophy. Like you see her wearing a lot of the same things over and over and over. She constantly repeated outfits. Like she wore those sunglasses, she wore that headband, she would wear the same boots, the same flip-flops. And this is like the thing about personal style. I think this concept of you having to like refill your wardrobe over and over and over again versus just having things that you just like wear and love and enjoy and you constantly put on repeat. My point being, it was really hard to find a third bag. Like it was really hard. But then I found this and I was like, okay, yes, this is her. And it just makes you like realize like, yes, you can have Birkins, you can wear Prada, but this third bag is a bag by L.L.Bean. And I'm not familiar with this brand. I actually had to look up what this brand was. It's an American brand. And this like tote goes for something like $30–40 I've seen online. And to me, it just represents her like leisurely life on the weekends, like her going to like Martha's Vineyard. This is her weekend bag and it just makes sense. For her, like having a Louis Vuitton travel bag, it just doesn't make sense for her aesthetic. Like having something that she can throw around, be more carefree with, it just kind of makes you think like, you know, do you really need to spend like $5,000 on a handbag, or could like a $40 like bag do the trick? So yeah, like guys, what do you think of her style? What do you think of her handbag choices? And I was really wondering like, who is someone that would like this style? And whenever I think of like minimalism, I would immediately think of someone like Phoebe Philo. But I think the thing about Phoebe Philo is that there's something just very man-repelling about her style. Whereas I think Carolyn Kennedy, like there's this like femininity about her. It's like, you know, the way she wore clothing that like fitted her frame. Like it was form follows function, but also fitted. Like how could she still have like a little bit of like effortless sexiness to her? She knew she was very attractive. Whereas I think when I think of like old Celine, there's a little bit less of that. She was definitely like a perfect representation for a brand like Calvin Klein. But just the way she also would wear brands like Yohji Yamamoto. Like that was like really revolutionary. But a brand I actually think today kind of really takes on this aesthetic, not entirely, but just hints of it here and there. I think a brand like Kate, like I think Kate is a brand that has like a little bit more of a fitted but like clean aesthetic. It's not totally Carolyn Bessette-Kennedy, but I think if you like fitted, clean clothing, I think that's a really great brand. Finally, I think she was someone that didn't necessarily accessorize with like the purpose of being ornamental. All of her accessories had a purpose. Like if she wore a headband, if she wore sunglasses, there might be something a little bit off or like something a little bit unexpected about these accessories, but she wore them often, and that's what really gave her her own sense of style. Versus like I think about today, right? Like when I'm myself wearing, you know, jewelry, right? Like you don't really see her wearing a lot of jewelry. Like she's not all like blinged up. Like she's pretty simple. Like she's very minimal with her jewelry, if ever wearing jewelry, if ever even wearing a lot of makeup. She was totally doing that like clean aesthetic before it was really popular, like in 2022. So just to like sum everything up, I think the biggest takeaway I get when looking at her fashion, looking at her sense of style, is classics can still be contemporary, but you can also make contemporary fashion classic. Like the fact that she made it acceptable to wear a white shirt to a black tie event with a Yohji Yamamoto skirt. You could wear that to a black tie event, like sure, people might, it's probably not what is traditionally worn, but like no one would think it was odd. She was pretty much the trailblazer. Classics can be contemporary and contemporary items can become classic, and it's kind of about finding that like balance of both. So that's my video, guys. What did you guys think of this? I don't know, like I don't know how this is gonna go down. Please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I definitely want to like look at other people's style that I think are very interesting. Like someone who I really want to talk about actually is Christine Lagarde, and if you're not familiar, she was like the former president of the IMF. Like they're just people who I think don't get talked about on the internet that have style, and I just want to highlight it. Please let me know if there's anyone you would like me to talk about. Please let me know in the comment section below your thoughts. Would love to hear. Thank you so much for joining me in another video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.